Forge, Chapter 33. The small room just beyond the door was crowded with gentlemen removing their coats, scarves, and hats, and then taking turns hanging them from pegs stuck on the wall. Once that was accomplished, they headed down the long hall. One fellow paused, staring at me with curiosity and addressing Bellingham. "Are you joining us, James?" he asked. "In a moment," Bellingham said. I waited for the man to depart, and then started in on the speech that had kept me up all night. "Mr. Bellingham, sir, I am greatly relieved to see that you are alive and in such good health. I pray that your good wife also fares well, and that your business has not been damaged too severely by the war." Bellingham's face was somber. "Thank you for the gracious sentiments, but I fear they are of little use. Lorna died last summer, and there's nothing left of what was my trading enterprise. This war has brought me to countless trials." He gestured my shabby clothing. "It would appear you have suffered as well. I am grateful that Providence has brought us all back together." "Indeed, sir," I said. "We can talk more later." He pointed down the hallway. "At the far end there, you'll find the kitchen. The cook's name is Mistress Cook. Oddly enough, can't create a delicacy to save her life, but she's well practiced in feeding hordes of hungry men. She should have a hot meal waiting for you. While you're eating, she'll prepare a bath." He tilted his head to the side in puzzlement. "Is something the matter?" Sir," I stammered. The front door opened again. More officers crowded in before I could explain. They greeted Bellingham as they shrugged off their greatcoats. The peg on the wall were all filled, so one of them tossed his coat to me. I caught it without a thought. Before I realized what I had done, the other men had piled their coats and hats in my arms, and then they too moved down the hall. Busy doing here," Bellingham said. "We're trying to repair the commissary department and restore the army to full strength." "Bellingham!" shouted the voice down the hall. "One moment," he responded. My shoes, footless, stood in a wet puddle on the floor. "I'd be happy to eat later, sir, if the congressmen want to question me now." I shifted the wet clothes to one arm. "Is there a maid who can take these?" "I beg your pardon?" Bellingham's brow wrinkled in confusion. "Who wants to question you?" "The men from the Congress, sir. They want to question me about the condition for us soldiers." His eyes lit up and he laughed. "You didn't think I was serious, did you? I spun that story to get you out of there. I didn't want the other fellows to turn on you in their envy. But first things first, take those coats back to the kitchen, then eat. The cook has found some clothes for you, but you won't have to wear them long. I'll send a note to my tailor in York, directing him to sew a suit of clothes for you that is more suitable for a serving gentleman." He leaned forward towards me and sniffed. "Exactly how long has it been since you used soap?" I ignored the rudeness and held steady to my planned course. I would not agree to work for him without fair wage. "What shall my rate of pay be, sir?" I asked. "Pay?" His brow wrinkled again. "I know that many officers have hired soldiers to be their manservants, but I do not know what they are paid." "Ah," he grasped his hand behind his back and stared at my bare foot before looking me straight in the eye. "Curzon," he said softly. "I own you." "Not any longer." I let the officer's coat fall to the ground. "You agreed I'd be free when my first enlistment expired. That was more than a year ago." "My circumstances have changed," he said. "That does not concern me." His eyes widened at my tone. "I will forgive the unfortunate impudence out of respect for your service you've shown for our country, but that will be the last of it." He paused and lowered his voice. I did say that I would one day free you, but that day has not yet come. The war has complicated everything for me." I thought of all I had endured: battle, prison, starvation, thirst, sickness, and cold. I chuckled at his complications. I could not help myself. "Stop that at once," he demanded. I laughed again, for he had become so small-minded, he could not even begin to understand how much had changed between us. "I won't serve you, not for pay and not for anything. However, you still owe me my signing bonus." I stuck out my hand. "£20 of sterling, please. Continental money is worthless." Bellingham hit me across the face so hard I flew into the coats that hung from the wall, then tripped over the coats on the floor. "Never speak to me in that tone." He stood over me, his fists clenched, a blue vein pulsing from his right eye. "Enough foolishness. You will eat, you will bathe, and you will do as I say." The ringing in my ears was so loud I could barely hear him. I had made a grave miscalculation. There was only one thing to do. I rose up in a fury and shoved all the coats at him, then pushed harder, so that he was driven backwards, stumbling and then falling. As soon as he lost his balance, I turned and opened the door and started running. "Guards!" Bellingham yelled. "Seize that boy!"